Hello and welcome to this very special recording with me, Oliver Steeds, Chief Executive of Necton, and my co-host,
Jyotika Vamani, Executive Director of the Schmidt Ocean Institute. We're going to have a fireside chat to discuss the insights that were generated during a workshop, one of the first UN Decade Ocean Labs for an Inspired and Engaged Ocean. And this is a workshop we ran in early July to explore how we can inspire the public with the ocean. We kicked off with some incredible talks by experts, followed by smaller group conversations to start to dig into this interesting and challenging topic. And if you didn't have a chance to see them live, please do check out the 8 insightful talks from 8 inspirational leaders, from social to news media, from literature to gaming, from food to the arts, and from fashion to sports. Each talk is only 5 minutes.
Also, please do have a look at the white paper which we have written on the subject to anchor these discussions. All these videos and publications are available on the Schmidt Ocean Institute website. So following the inspirational talks, participants were split into different working groups, and over 45 minutes, they were challenged to consider 3 key questions. Firstly, what motivates the public to engage in a particular subject or sector? Secondly, we're looking for positive examples. What was best in class that you've seen in your sector, which we should be all learning from? And thirdly, looking for 3 achievable projects or activities which people would like to see created in a particular cultural sector to inspire the public with the ocean. So Jyotika, let's discuss some of the insights and ideas that were generated. They're all detailed in a separate publication, also available on the website. So firstly, what were the big themes, do you feel, which cut across everything?
What became really clear is that we should not ask or require or task the ocean science community to lead on inspiring the public about the ocean. They have enough on their plate and, they're doing what they do and they do it well. For example, if you want a joke, you ask a comedian. If you want a film, you ask a filmmaker.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And we need to partner with those experts to help us tell the story of the ocean. But that's not to say that the ocean community, scientists, NGOs, conservationists, etc., should stop engaging with the public. Absolutely not. Rather, they do need to do more to make their work, their stories, far more relatable, particularly when it comes to making it matter to people and people's lives. Let's pick out a few interesting things that came out of each group, and let's start with literature. We had 2 brilliant authors, Monique Roffey and Dr. Helen Scales, and some excellent ideas came out of their discussions. One of them was to consider how we can engage with the publishing industry and see if they could perhaps commission established, brilliant writers to actually write about the ocean. I wonder, for instance, what someone like Michael Lewis might do with the ocean.
Or perhaps Michael teaming up with ocean science experts to tell a story. Actually, one of the interesting discussion points was that the ocean needs stories that are rooted in many genres, beyond science fiction, fantasy, or action adventure, although recognizing, of course, that the ocean naturally provides an avenue for escapism, which was also mentioned as a key to good storytelling.
So let's now move on, if we can, into news media. And that group was led by Sandy McIntyre, award-winning journalist and a vice president of Associated Press, the world's largest news agency. And there were some particularly good insights on what should be considered when trying to engage journalists. We need to always remember to try and keep it local, make it relevant to people's lives. And when talking with journalists, try and talk with them at an early stage so you can work with their planning needs.
I actually like the idea of an ocean news channel dedicated to ocean science and tales from the sea, like the Weather Channel, but about the ocean. Every expedition is an adventure, so having real-time broadcasts from every major expedition could not only show the beauty and mystery of the ocean, but also point out the relevance to people's lives. So moving on to the next section, something else that touches many people's lives in this day and age is, of course, social media. And we had a really fascinating conversation led by Stephanie Smith from NASA, who shared some great insights, such as people often engage with social media that's positive to really build an enlightened audience. It has to be more than just a foghorn of one-way broadcast. We really need to, put some effort into replying to comments or on conversation threads, staying positive and mentioning people so that they're part of the conversation.
Absolutely. And one of the suggested activities that I thought was also interesting was trying to encourage the scientific community to collaborate far more. For instance, try to join up their messaging, cross-promoting their posts and sharing influencer contacts, perhaps. And all of this, if it was done, could really help create a louder and more united voice for the ocean.
Another cultural section that has a very large audience is gaming. Last year, there were over 3 billion video game consumers. That's about 40% of the global population, if you think about it. So the big question is, how can we engage them? Which we posed to Alan Gershenfeld, who's made games with and for the Gates Foundation, the US Agency for International Development, Google, and the White House.
And two insights that really struck me were how gaming could, and arguably really should, stop perpetuating that false dichotomy that space is fun and the ocean is dangerous. Because first up, I think that would help. And on a different note, I think we also need to consider how we can engage gamers more in low-income nations, because over 70% of our coastlines are in those countries.
Well, one of the inspiring positive examples that I think is worth mentioning here is Play for the Planet. It's an alliance of some of the biggest companies in gaming that have committed to harnessing the power of their platforms to take action on the climate crisis. It's supported by the UN Environment Programme. And I also actually thought an idea that came up that would be fun was to convert every space game into an ocean setting. I mean, after all, the ocean is another planet with aliens swimming around.
You've just given me a great segue. Thank you, Jyotika. Speaking of swimming around, let's move on to food and fishing. So the discussion seemed to be focused actually more on education to ensure people know what they are eating, which is, of course, an interesting and important angle. But also within all of that, the need for greater equity in education, particularly making educational resources available free for people in lower income nations with content that is both locally or regionally relevant to them.
And following on from that, one of the insights was around the need for dialogues and how important it is to have conversations with communities around the world to ensure that their needs are addressed instead of just telling them facts about food and the fish that they eat and assuming they will respond, because food is such an integral part of many different cultures.
And now let's dive into the world of arts. And that working group was also fascinating. It was led by Fernanda Oyazan, a scientist and artist from Chile. Art often anchors our aesthetic. It inspires wonder and challenges us often to think differently. And as with this event, we're looking to see how we can connect different parts of our culture to the ocean. So art is going to need to play a really important role.
Combining art with science is actually pretty powerful. And we found that scientists are really invigorated by working with artists and vice versa. And together they can create really interesting ways to translate scientific knowledge and discovery into art for everyone.
One idea that really appealed to me in this busy world of information download that we all seem to be living in is that of interactivity. Instead of just passively viewing an exhibit, we should perhaps give people a place to be able to draw and paint seascapes or become creative, so they're vested in their own creation. It's easier for those who live by the ocean, of course, but in fact, there's no reason why it can't be done inland as well.
I agree, Oliver. I think it's really important to, have that time to create, be creative and create something. And I look forward to that time myself. But something that people do actively get involved in, and it's kind of partly from necessity, is fashion. And we had some really good insights from Tom Kay, founder of the brilliant brand Finisterre, whose clothes have a minimal impact on the environment. And producing clothes within the circular economy is going to be really important for sustainability on this planet going forward.
Absolutely. And there are some brands already doing things, but we need a lot more of them out there actually leading the charge, I feel. And there were some good suggestions which came through of activities that the fashion industry could undertake. They could create more fashion using marine debris, or they could add ocean messaging onto clothing. And it's something I've always wanted to see is actually a clothing line with fish puns. One of my favourite being in Cod We Trust. It should be emblazoned on every t-shirt. But everyone has a favourite fish pun. Jyotika, imagine you have one.
Well, Oliver, I really think we can bring the ocean to new audiences because I believe any fin is possible.
So there you have it. We are committed to a fashion line, hopefully with Tom, which will have fish puns. So you've heard it here first. Anyway, back to our story, back to the purpose of our conversation. There were also some other ideas which came through that if we want to have the impact at the speed and the scale the ocean needs, it has to be the really big fashion brands who lead the way. We're talking mass market, fast fashion, houses like Target, for example, who are increasingly in the spotlight for environmental and social responsibility. So in many ways, we can all become far more informed consumers to make our consumer choices work far better for the ocean. And I think we can do that not just in fashion, but in every different consumer choice which we make.
Yeah, and but I want to wrap this up with something that really truly embodies human excellence and dedication, and that's sports. Sports can provide ways for ocean advocacy and awareness campaigns to reach a large population of people. So this final chat was hosted by Mark Towell, CEO of 11th Hour Racing. What struck me from this group and the insights was particularly the storytelling piece of the puzzle that crosses over everything that we've been talking about. The best sports stories have to have a human element, such as the underdog overcoming insurmountable challenges, which, we've all watched the Olympics and it's really exciting. But they can also include fun and adventure. And we've got some great ocean sports. We must be able to find new ways to utilize these sports and others to create new connections for more people with the ocean.
Thank you, Jyotika. I feel that maybe is a great place to end our chat. There's so much for us all to think about, and we hope that you, our listeners, have enjoyed this little fireside chat. This is really just the beginning of a journey that we, Necton and Schmidt Ocean Institute, are on together. We are committed to finding new ways to inspire the public with the ocean.
The next step of our journey was going to be to engage leaders from each of these different sectors: sports, fashion, gaming, social and news media, literature, and the arts, to discuss specific interventions, some major activity supported by others from across their industry that can inspire the public with the ocean.
Thank you very much. So if you are a leader in those industries or know people who are leaders in those industries, please do get in touch with us, Schmidt Ocean Institute and Necton, and share your ideas, because we need to start activating these industries on behalf of the ocean. So thank you again for joining us on this chat, and please do join us on this journey. To make a difference, we need to do things differently. And that's where you all come in. We need to find all sorts of different ways to connect our cultures to the ocean. So it leaves me really only to say goodbye and leave you with a fantastic fish pun. Don't leave it to someone else.
Thank you, Oliver. That's brilliant. I just want to say that this gives us plenty of food for thought, and I think we all need some time to mull it over.
So goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me. Thank you.